So this week I am talking about a tab open called Mother's Little Helper, vintage drug ads. So
Okay.
I ended up had this open for a while, and because I had one point asked, like, I had heard the rumor that housewives in the 50s were all
Hmm.
drugged up, right? And I was like, is that true? Was
Yes,
it
I
really
remember
that
hearing this.
widespread?
Yeah.
It is very true. And it was extremely widespread. And
Oh,
I went down this rabbit hole of like women's mental health and like where it all started. And it goes way back. Like men have been like, what do we do? Here's
yeah.
some cocaine.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
for years.
Have you
Like
tried cocaining it?
it's for real. It's like have some cocaine, put it on your gums, you'll feel better. And give your kids cocaine, stuff like that. And so I went down this big rabbit hole of like realizing that I would have absolutely been lobotomized in 1945. I would have been lobotomized so fast.
So
Uh,
hard.
Tens of thousands of women a year were lobotomized in the
Dear
40s.
Lord, I didn't realize it
Yes,
was that much.
I didn't either. And a lot of it was like on recommendation by their husbands because they were like, this lady's not doing what she should. Also, she wants to work. No, and so no, literally because in the it was
They wanted
it's
like
horrible.
independence. Oh God.
Yeah, because during World War II, women
Uh-huh.
were expected to start entering the workforce since the men were all away fighting, and
Yeah, yeah.
so alongside that, they were also in charge of making sure their homes were sufficient for their children and that their children
Hmm.
were fed and kept alive. And luckily, the government subsidized childcare, which was really new for its time because they
Which
needed these.
continues to be a good idea, by the way.
Yeah,
Dear
maybe we
Lord.
should do it again.
Yeah.
But it turns out it's all rooted in this. They don't want us to. The conservative tradition does not want us to work outside the home. That's a whole different thing. Anyway,
What's that thing that everyone was mad about? Trad wives, right? Was
trad
that the whole thing that
trad wives, dude. Oh, that's a whole other. Have you ever gone down that rabbit hole?
No, I just saw one clip of that girl I think she was like some blonde girl or something. And I was like,
They
I
all
don't need
are.
this in my brain. I was like, my brain does not need
What
this
white
information.
nonsense is
Yeah.
this?
I was like, fine. People were like really mad. I was like, I don't give a shit. This is not worth
Can't
my
get
time.
into
I didn't
this.
even, I can't. I have too much other stuff to worry about. I can't get into whatever this
Can't think
is.
about like trad wives. But yeah, so they were doing all this stuff and they were proud of it. Like, come into the factories, help the war effort. We need you. And turns
Yeah.
out they were really good at it.
Yeah.
Women were extremely good at multitasking, at running businesses, at actually like doing the logistics that it needed, that it took to like run these factories and that made
Hmm.
things for the war. And so they'd be like making parachutes, riveting planes, like Rita the River, Rita,
Yeah. Rosie the Riveter, I believe,
Ri-
right? The We Can
Rosie the
Do It.
Riveter with like the "We Can Do It"
Yeah.
buff
Yeah. Yeah.
thing. That
The
that
most
was like a
iconic.
thing. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's why it's always used as like a women's liberation like thing because that truly was like the first time women were like, "You want us to work? You're gonna pay us a bunch of money to work? Okay." But all things must come to an end. Thankfully,
Of
the war
course.
came to an end in 1945, and the men all came home, and they were like, "Where are our jobs?" And the women were like, "We're doing
They
them
took our jobs.
for
They
real."
took our
And
jobs.
all the men were like PTSD'd out of their. I love that episode. Classic. My dad showed me that episode way too young. I was like, because I have like a young parents. So he's like,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
watch
Yeah.
Beavis and Butthead. I'm like, looking back, I'm like, I guess my dad was like 25.
That explains so much.
About me, yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Ren and
In a
Stimpy.
good way. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Anyway, so the men get back and they're
Yeah.
like PTSD'd out of their mind, after like whatever they did over in France or Japan, and they want their jobs back. They want things to kind of go back to normal. And
Uh-huh.
the early 50s, late 40s, early 50s, there was one of the largest economic booms in world history. And so there was money, there were houses, there were cars, there was just this wide open world for white people
Yeah.
because that's what it was. It was for white people.
Flight.
Yeah. And yes. And so you were able to afford these homes. And this began this era of the nuclear family. And so this is another entire thing I went down. And I need to not touch this. Okay. I'm going to try to say this concisely, but I think the nuclear family is ruining the entire world. But that's beside the point.
Whoa.
So the nuclear family, we are not built to be in small units like this with a mother and a father,
Hmm.
heterosexual with some kids, because we're meant to be in groups, tribal societies, where we have grandparents and aunts and uncles and the community to watch children, help them raise children,
Yeah.
educate children. But in the 50s, they're like, women, hey, we'll give you some work to do. You're going to stay
Well, hold
inside.
on. To be clear, so you're not saying that the nuclear family is necessarily bad. You're saying that it's not enough.
It's not enough
Yeah.
at all. And I've been feeling this way for a while, like looking at
Yeah.
my
No.
friends with kids. You're like,
100%. Yeah.
how are any of us supposed to do this?
Yeah. People are like the cost of childcare is like insane.
Yeah.
And if you don't have like a parent or like in the kid's case, like a grandparent around to help out, like you have to have like 5 jobs to be able to just pay for your
Yeah.
kid to be taken care of while you're doing one job. Like it
One
takes a
job just
village.
to earn the money to keep your job and your place in the
Yeah. No,
workforce.
that's literally what. Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
It's like a trade, equal trade, one for one trade, which
I agree. No,
maybe
no,
I'll do the
I don't
nuclear
disagree. No,
family later.
no,
Yeah.
you're preaching to the choir. I totally. I mean, again, just real quick to bring it back to the culture that I come from, and people are like, yeah, like of course, like your aunts and uncles and
Yeah.
cousins and like parents are around all the time. You want to murder all of them all the time because they're all up in
All
your
the
business and they
time.
drive you crazy. But like
That's
it does
another,
require
yeah.
that.
I come from not a similar. I'm similar in like I'm from Utah, and it's very
Yeah,
similar. Where it's like you're surrounded by family at all times. You can
all the
just
time.
go over
Yeah,
to a cousin's house down the street.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Take the bus to your grandma's house after school. Like my mom
yeah.
had a full time job, my dad had a full time job. I was at my grandma's house, my cousins. It was just very different from how my kids are being raised because there isn't that kind of insular community anymore.
Yeah, yeah. It's a bummer. It's really sad.
It is, and like you said, yeah, you want to kill everyone. And you're like, I hate all these people, but then when you don't have them around, you're like, ooh, maybe
I
I
miss
love them.
them. Yeah.
Maybe this is great.
Sorry.
So this is in contrast to the extended family model that most of the world uses,
Yeah.
uh, where you have multi-generational households living in the same house.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I have to stop myself from keeping talking about this. I'm feeling myself spiral into this. Okay. Point is, we went hard on the nuclear family in the 50s. Everyone's like, this is the way to do it. This is the only way to do it. It's the best way you can raise kids. And so expectations of women like skyrocketed. Suddenly women
Hmm.
were like, okay, go back to the house, have this great family, and do everything. And so women became the launderers, they became the maid, they became the cook, they became the mom, they became the sexual partner, they became the emotional rock. You know what I mean? Like all these
Yeah.
things, just boom, here's your new job, and you have to do it alone. So reading about all this, I'm like, oh, I would 100% find any sort of drug that
Yeah.
could help me do this. And
You're
which
like,
I'm
this
also
is a great story. This is definitely not making me want to go insane.
well, no, it made me realize like, oh, we all still do this.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, on some level, probably. Sure.
100%. I'm
Yeah.
getting talking really fast. Let me slow down a little bit.
That's okay. I'm
Anyway,
following you.
so the magazines, the ads, the conservative like social expectations were really
Hmm.
being pushed in advertisements. It's like, look at this shining white blonde woman happy in her kitchen,
Hmm.
slender, making a beautiful pot roast for her blank-faced husband. And so it's like, here we go. And it's putting put on you constantly. And so these women were finding themselves completely worn down. And have you ever read an old National Geographic?
Yes, I not for quite some time, but nothing comes to mind. But I do remember reading all the old, actually probably not the 50s, but I definitely remember looking through like 70s National Geographics when I was in high school because they had them like in our library and stuff. But
Oh,
no,
right.
not probably not to the extent that you're talking about. No.
Um, I live in a city where there's a bunch of old people who die all the time. And
Hmm.
so the library gets all their National Geographic donations, and I
That's
am
cool.
there. Like
That's awesome.
I go when the library opens because that's where the 1930s and 40s ones are.
Whoa.
And I'm in this
No,
weird
I've never seen one from the
silent.
30s. That's super
I
cool.
found one from 1920.
Whoa.
Yeah. It has. I'll have to show you. I'll bring it to Emerald City
Yeah.
because
Let me see it.
it's like the new washing machine. And it's like a woman in front of this gigantic and there was like ads for like tuberculosis treatment. It was like fascinating. Point is there
use cocaine.
Cocaine for everything. And then it's like a whole article about a white dude just completely ruining a native's like indigenous like Alaskan's land.
He didn't like the cocaine that we gave him, so we shot him.
Now we own the Arctic. But these ads in there were nuts in the 50s. They'd sell like vacuums and dishwashers to women, and they'd have like these testimonials like, my life's easy and my husband's happy. But to the men, they were all these just like watches and pens. And weirdly enough, dress shoes made of kangaroo skin. Kangaroo hide. Yeah.
Why kangaroo hide? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. Just a thought. Continue.
I think they outlawed it, obviously, because I've never heard of that. So yeah, while men were like skinning kangaroos and putting them on their feet, women were being told to
lobotomize.
We were getting lobotomized. There was some kangaroo murder. It was insane. The world was our oyster.
Wow.
So if you can picture this, I'm going to do this to you again.
I love it.
23-year-old woman in 1945.
Perfect.
What's your name? Nora?
My name is let's do Betty. I'll be like Betty Draper. I'll be Betty.
Betty's a good one.
Yeah.
Your name's Betty. You're 23.
Hi.
Put that transatlantic accent on.
Yeah. Well, how you doing, sugar? I don't know why I'm Southern.
I mean, maybe Betty's Southern.
Yeah. She can be.
And you, Betty, as an American woman, helped your country to victory by welding ship hulls. Let's say that. Like, you just welded ships together. Not together. You know what I mean?
Together, yeah.
Like,
that's why we didn't win the war and we needed to drop the nuclear bomb, because all of our ships were welded together. They couldn't leave.
One big line of ships.
FDR's like, what are we doing here, guys? What are we doing?
Why do women do this?
Yeah, that's why Patton was great. Right. Patton came in and he was like, we need to separate these ships. And they're like, he's a genius.
I remember that speech he gave.
Yeah.
Separate these ships. It's iconic. Okay. So, Betty, you just got done riveting airplane
ships together. Yeah, right.
Welding ships to each other. And your true love, what should your true love's name be?
My
Frank?
true love's Frank. Yes.
Franklin. Betty and Frank.
Yeah.
Frank.
Betty and Frank.
Frank, your true love, is coming back from war, and he's like scarred and psychologically destroyed from like freeing a Belgian village or whatever. And the economic boom is going, and he's got like money, but he's insane. And you and Frank get married, and you buy a nice 3-bedroom mid-century modern home in
like
the suburbs
$14
for like $17.
Yeah.
Speaking of National Geographic ads, the ones for like the homes, it's like, this is $5,000, and it's like, kill me. Yeah,
I hate it so much.
Yeah. Yep. We're all going to work till we're dead. We're all going to work till we're dead. Oh, there it is. I brought it up. Okay.
Bury me until the boomers are dead, and that we can finally buy real estate again.
That's not going to happen. Okay.
They'll live forever.
They'll live forever. So you and Frank get married, Betty, and
Frank.
You find this lovely house in the suburbs, and before you know it, it's like the 50s, and you have 3 kids, right?
Beautiful. What are our kids' names?
Let's see. I'm gonna do this because this is easy. They were always named like Jennifer,
Chet.
and Sandra, and Chet.
Sandra and Chet. Is Chet the middle child, or is he the youngest, or is he's the old? Okay, Chet's the boy.
Sandra's the oldest girl, and she's just
overachiever.
She's a second mother, pretty much, because
exactly. She has to take care of the other 2 kids.
Chet is the boy who's angry,
roughhousing all the boys.
And his dad's always like, play more football, and he's like, but I like dancing, but I'll never say. And then the youngest girl just gets forgotten.
Yeah.
Youngest girl Jennifer is just like eating lead paint somewhere in the house or something.
Yeah, she's kind of strange, but whatever. She's blonde at least.
The good old days. Anyway, so you have these kids, and you sometimes do you remember the factories, remember the ships, and
Yeah, yeah.
10 years ago when you were like had this
Things used to
big
be great.
purpose, and but
Agency, right?
no, you don't remember it. And
Oh,
it doesn't matter anymore because now you're a mother and a wife and a maid and a cook and an emotional guide, all of it. And that's all
all
that
of it.
matters now. So you can imagine how much of a bummer this was as the years go
Yes.
by.
I
And
can imagine in my sleep, I'm trying to rivet these children together like the chips.
get in the ocean.
I'm sleep riveted. So
Anyway,
your kids,
so
you're
these
basically,
kids-
you've had to forget about your past and,
and you
just
had to
continue
just
your
be
role
like,
as a
this
mother.
is my
Yeah.
job. No alone time, nothing. You got to be everything for everybody.
Yeah.
Almost like it still is like that. Oh my
Yeah, I
gosh,
was gonna say,
I
what,
just
this
rubbed all
50s?
my mascara all over my face, just
It's
like
okay,
an
the video's
insane
very
housewife.
blurry. Yeah, right. You're like,
So you live in this neighborhood with everybody else that's also doing the same thing, and your kids can play with each other. That's honestly one of the better things about this kind of a living situation, because there's always
yeah.
someone's like watchful eye. Your kids can run free, eat lead paint at other people's houses, different kinds. Get the full
this lead
spectrum of
paint's a
lead
little bit
paint.
spicy.
Ooh, I like Timmy's lead paint.
Yeah, Timmy's lead paint was great.
There's some like
It has
asbestos
butter on it.
mixed in.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you're doing all this, and then one time you're at your friend Anne's house, and Anne is perfect. And Anne throws these dinner parties that full of like Jello with meat in it and stuff like that, and beautiful food, a beautiful spread. And you overhear your husband Frank asking Anne's husband how she does it and how he's jealous of Anne's cooking. And you're sitting there exhausted, dead tired, thinking, I'm the worst. Frank will only like me if I can cook better. I don't know what, this is not projection, I promise. I don't cook. And how well behaved their kids are. And she hears all this, and you hear all this, and suddenly you're like, I'm going to throw this meat Jello at the wall. I'm so angry. Yeah. And so you go home and you're like, how am I going to be like Anne? She's perfect. She smiles. She's happy. She's good with her kids. She's patient. She's, skinny. Skinny. And that's what really matters too. These women want skinny women. And you wonder why it's so hard for you. And so finally, while you're mopping and cooking at the same time and like putting gravy in a Jello tin or whatever they used to do, you're seething because your husband's like checked out, reading the newspaper, staring
also he's got PTSD, like has no idea like how to exist as a normal person, and is probably a severe alcoholic.
Like, definitely cheating on you for sure. They all did.
Oh, cheating, yeah, for sure.
At the office, yeah. Looks vacantly through you whenever you talk to him. Anyway, so you finally just give in and you're like, I have to ask Anne how she does it, how she's so skinny and perfect, and her kids are great. So you go over there and you're like, Anne, how do you do it? And she says,
what do you do?
I'll tell you how I do it. It's a little thing called Benzedrine. And
shit.
It's a miracle. And Benzedrine is it was a very early amphetamine prescribed to mostly women in the 1950s to help settle their nerves, quote unquote. It was better than lobotomies. So everyone was like, this is great. And usually it was by word of mouth of like, oh, here's how I do it. Here's how I'm doing it. You should ask your doctor. And it was kind of like this, like,
viral marketing that way.
Yes.
Or word of mouth marketing.
Word of mouth marketing. So regular.
Yeah.
Anyway, there are these ads.
In menopause.
So there was this really popular one, and it's pretty much meth, and it helps women hang out. Let me find these. Oh my gosh,
Ritalin.
I put an old Ritalin ad in there for you.
Yes.
So there was these ones. You can see, like, this one says, now she can cook breakfast again. Mornidine. When you prescribe Mornidine.
What a name.
And there's like this woman that's just like prodding at a pancake in a nightgown, and she's smiling. She looks
like she's using that griddle, like about to use it as a weapon.
she might.
Could go
all
either
of
way.
these are these smiling women who are finally happy. This one says, you can't free her, you can't set her free, but you can help her feel less anxious.
This is an interesting picture too, because she's biting her nails and she's hiding. She almost looks like she's in prison behind. Like, I don't know if this is deliberate. I think they accidentally. It's like behind a broom and a mop and a duster
and an iron, and she's sitting there looking anxious, and And it says you can't help her, you can't set her free, but you can help her feel less anxious. And so all of these,
that's them acknowledging that like your wife is a prisoner, but
well, because at the
she's
same time,
your prisoner, and she better not be a bummer.
She better do this with a smile on her face.
Yeah, on her smile. Come on.
Yeah. So these uppers, these Benzedrine and things like that, got people to actually, they would be able to stay up later, so they would be, sexually available and willing to, fulfill literally everybody's needs with a lot of energy and pep. And a lot of women who were depressed would get on these because it actually, I mean, as we know now, I'm medicated for ADHD, and it absolutely helps me do literally anything. Yeah. And so same. I can imagine being on a high dose of meth would have done the same thing. And so besides those ones, if you were anxious, there was another drug for you. And those were benzodiazepines. I'm sure you've heard about benzos before. Yeah. And these ones were very widespread. They were tranquilizers that were meant to calm somebody down. So if you think about like the typical Stepford wife, like blank stare, like that's pretty much what they would look like. They'd be chill and down for anything and happy and not fussing, not making a big deal about stuff. And men loved it. And so some of these were, you've heard of Valium.
Yes.
And then there's Atarax. There's Milltown.
Atarax? I've never heard of Atarax.
Atarax. They don't use it anymore.
It's not like Adderall.
No, it's Atarax. I don't know what it is. It's a downer. But this Milltown stuff was really popular. And I don't know why it's called Milltown. It sounds stupid, but they would give it to women. See, one of the things it says, this ad says for Milprim, says, in the menopause, transition without tears.
Yeah, and it's a picture of a woman. It's like an older lady. She's standing at like a buffet, almost, it looks like, and there's a couple of dudes around her with cups on saucers, and she sort of, again, looks like she's ready to murder everybody, but maybe that's just projection. I don't know.
No, I think she was. But yeah, she's smiling, and she can actually, be pleasing to be around if she does that. There's one that says pregnancy can be made a happier experience with Milltown. Turns out it caused birth defects and early miscarriages and late-term miscarriages. Really horrific stuff.
Yeah.
And there's all these accounts of these women who were put on it on the internet. Like they've come out and been like, here's what it was like for me. Awful. A lot of it was pressure. A lot of it was husbands. A lot of it was male doctors kind of misleading them about what it is. Being like, we're going to put you on this. It'll help you. And there's no real like information given. And so there was a lot of medical abuse and misuse of these medicines. And they were popular for a while up until the women's right or the women's liberation movement. When women were like, we kind of want to work and we kind of want to have because people started realizing, right. We want lobotomies again. That's what I'm going to do. Fifth wave feminism is going to bring back lobotomies.
But it's my choice.
It's my choice to get a lobotomy. Do you ever wonder how nice it would be, though?
Occasionally, I do think about what it would be like. Not because I think it would be nice, but just as like a fascination of just being like, what is it like in the first person? Like, how do you think? Do you just not? Right. I don't know enough about it, so it's like, do you just not have thoughts? Like, I don't actually know anything even remotely about how lobotomy makes you feel on the inside. I know what like the outside effect is when you see somebody, but like internally, like what's happening.
You just kind of don't like. There's no extreme emotion to anything. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, you're agreeable. You don't worry too much about things. There's no complex worries, if that makes sense. Like.
Yeah, I feel like my entire identity would be gone if I didn't have complex
worries. It is, yes. No, same.
Same. Just having such heightened complex worries all the time, like literally as I'm saying the sentence. I'd be like, who am I without being worried? I don't understand.
That's my identity, being mentally incapable of handling things.
Yeah.
Anyway, so these tranquilizers, benzos, were extremely popular because they would also give them to kids. They would give them to everybody, but like 75% of the prescriptions were for housewives. So yeah, what ended it was the women's lib movement of the 60s. women weren't happy to be relegated to one role. And they wanted to have fulfilling careers and go to college to actually get degrees and not just to meet somebody who can provide for them. That coupled with there's an economic dip in the 70s, wherever, it couldn't last forever. That 50s
inflation,
boom.
everything. Yeah, it's going crazy.
The 70s kind of dipped, and then women were kind of forced back into the workforce. And that golden age, quote unquote, of the nuclear family kind of came to an end because there's no way you can live in a capitalist society which requires you to pay rent and have one parent at home nowadays. And then also in the 70s, women were finally allowed to open their own bank accounts without. I
always forget about that. Yeah. Which is so...
it's insane.
You're like, what?
Like, husband, may I have my own money, please?
It hurts my brain.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Like,
it doesn't make sense.
No. Yeah. Turns out we're like people, It's wild
listen, concept. And not even that, but I'm like, even from like the capitalist, like hyper, like you need to make money perspective, like by and large, like women spend more money than men do by and large. Yeah. Like they're because of their role, because of like their access to stuff and just having to like think about it. So it's like, why would you not market like everything to women all the time? Like, I truly don't understand it. Like, if you're just like, I'm not to like make money, why wouldn't you? It just, right. It doesn't make sense.
They figured it out. They figured that out pretty quick.
Yeah.
And that also, they have their own bank accounts, and birth control became way more widely accessible. And for the first time ever, women could be like, no, not going to have a kid.
Yeah, I'm going to work
and that
I'm going to have my own deal.
Pissed a lot of people off. And we're still seeing the ripple effects of that today.
Yeah, it continues to. Yeah.
Which is normal. This always happens when there's a huge societal move toward a different ideology. There's going to be pushback for a while. Anyway, there's a bunch of waves of feminism, and they all, we all fight amongst ourselves. But then also another thing that ended it, we all realized meth was bad. Meth isn't good. And other drugs are better. And meth ended up getting really addicted to these housewives. Their lives would fall apart, or their children would be on it and their lives would fall apart. And it was associated with degeneracy and weakness because they couldn't handle their meth.
Yeah.
And
toughen up.
Get over it.
Toughen up with your meth addiction and depression and lack of purpose.
Just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and be a white man.
Yeah.
It's easy.
It's clearly they were in a good place too.
Okay.
Just push it down. All of it.
All of it. All the way down. Never think about it. And then take it out in anger on your children.
Perfect.
Anyway, it's super sad. As you can see, the drug epidemic is still extremely difficult and hard to see, and it's happening all around us. And a lot of people who are overdosing right now are women with children because this didn't stop. They're still...
No, I was just gonna say I didn't realize specifically that women led men in cases, and it was mothers.
I don't think they lead them in deaths. They lead them in use, though.
Oh, in use.
There is
okay.
a lot of use of painkillers, and men tend to become more addicted and hospitalized for it and die from it. Yeah. Women tend to Anyway, and there's still just a lot of, and almost if you notice antidepressant ads on TV and stuff, they're all directed to women. It's always like this sad mom, sitting by a window, and the husband and kids are like, "What do we do?"
What do we do? Mom's sad.
Mom's sad. Let's give her drugs.
Sad. Let's give her drugs.
And so still they still
unless
market.
You need drugs, in which case,
I do
take them. Yeah, we should be clear. We're not drug shaming. We're not saying that people should not be on medication if they need to.
I was going to bring up before I had kids, I was depressed, been depressed since I was 14. And then I had kids, and then I was like, oh, this is a different depression. Interesting. It's like another layer.
There's another level. You leveled up.
Yeah, I had postpartum depression, and I was like, oh, finally I'm back to regular depression. Phew. Once I got that out of the way, I was like, good, I can handle regular depression.
You're like, this I got. This I have experience with.
Well, and then another, sorry, I'm hopping around. ADD.
Okay. Would you like some meth, Hannah?
Yeah, actually, I'm already on it. So, actually, I don't think Vyvanse is meth.
I don't think it's meth. No, I think Ritalin's methylphenidate. Technically, none of it's meth, but I think
Right. It's all from like the
from
branch
the
off
root.
of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Shoot, what was I saying?
You were talking about how ads are now marketed
Oh, they're
towards
all
moms
marketed
and
towards
women and
moms
stuff.
and women and things like that, which is, here's the thing, it's a misconception. Men are also sad. It's just that we haven't given men a very safe environment to express that sadness without
Hmm.
emasculating them, which is a whole other thing on its own. Everyone's sad.
It's not even that they don't have a space for it. It's like we don't even give as a man in this
No, seriously.
conversation. Who's no, I'm joking. Yeah,
This is good.
I think they don't even teach you necessarily like the language to be able to identify
Right.
what it is in the first place. I mean, I'm lucky because I grew up with like a huge family of women, so like
You were socialized by women.
I was socialized in a way that was like it's very different.
Yeah.
But you talk to other guys, or I would, sometimes when I talk to other guys who are not necessarily exposed to as many, I guess, as sophisticated of a vocabulary of being able to like identify certain things and express them. You're like, how is the, and you're like, oh, I guess you just never were taught
Never learned.
and never learned at any point. And then they're more frustrated because they don't know how to even identify what it is that they're feeling in the first place, let alone be able to say that it's depression or something. It's just like,
Right.
why am I punching holes in the wall because I'm angry? And it's like, no, you're not angry, you're disappointed, and that's, you don't know how to express it. That's why you're
And
punching holes. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
It all
yeah.
comes out in rage.
And
And
rage.
that is one thing we have on you guys, is a lot longer of a history of being emotionally supportive of each other. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah,
we
true.
had to. And I think now that it's kind of turning around, like finally, I hope we can have some sort of like, I got all serious. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Serious like time for men to finally be able to like have those words and learn those. Anyway, it's pretty crazy. And I just realized the time, so I'm going to wrap this up. I just wanted to point out that things are changing. Even though most times if a woman and a man are both working outside the house, the woman still on average does more of the housework and childcare as the man who has the same amount of time. And that's just society.
I've heard that before. Yeah.
It's society. It's hard to, we've caught up with our minds, but our habits have not as a
Sure.
society. And
Yeah.
we're getting there. And then I saw this a statistic that said in the 1980s, half of fathers had never changed a diaper.
That's insane.
And then I know millennials, only 3% of fathers had never changed a diaper. So that's self-reported. So
Yeah.
but still better.
I'm not even a father, and I have changed diapers before.
Wait, really?
Well, I have
Well,
a
yeah, I
niece
guess
and
you have like
nephew that,
niece and nephew.
because I'm part of the extended family of like my
Right.
sister and my brother-in-law and stuff. So like I was there when they were born. Like we're lucky that we all live in the same town.
Well, that's
So
another
like
thing
I
that's
was
like
I was there when they were
good
really little,
about
and I
it.
would help what I could.
And that like in evolutionarily, that's like that now I am better suited as a father because someone will choose me
exactly,
because
100%. It's taught me. Yeah, I'm like
Yeah.
It's not like a foreign. I always think
Yeah.
about that where I'm like I have a little bit of a primer for it now.
yeah,
Where like I've sort of seen what it
Yeah.
did to my sister, my brother-in-law, and the non-sleeping, and then like
Yeah.
like you it's not the same thing as experiencing it firsthand, but even just peripherally being around that sort of
Oh, yeah.
family and seeing it is like okay, and I sort of have an idea. It's not like what they put on TV necessarily.
no. To wrap it up, I wanted to talk
Yeah.
about the Rolling Stones song. Have you ever heard the song "Mother's Little Helper" by the
I don't
Rolling
know
Stones?
if I have. No, what record is that off of?
It's all about I don't know. Hold on. It's
Little
all
Helper.
about Valium.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and it's all about some of the lyrics are just solid. So yeah, some of the chorus or part of the song goes things are different today, I hear every mother say. Cooking fresh food for her husband's just a drag. So she buys an instant cake and burns a frozen steak. And she goes running to the shelter of her mother's little helper. And she helps her on her way and gets her through her busy day. And the whole song is this. It's pretty much just like things suck for women and they need Valium. And I was like, oh, I did not no idea there was an entire song by the Rolling Stones about Valium. Not meth.
Leading the way, speaking up.
Yeah. And then
I'm assuming it's an
also-
older song, right? Yes.
Oh yeah, it's from the 60s.
Okay, I don't know that one, surprisingly.
I didn't either. And then when I listened to it, I was like, this is a good song. It's
Nice.
really good. You should listen to it. And then one more thing. I found this video called The Relaxed Wife.
The Relaxed Wife.
I found this video while I was reading about all these different drugs, and it's from 1957, and it's like an ad for Atarax, that one of the one of the tranquilizers, and it's called The Relaxed Wife, and it's like a 15-minute ad of this husband who's just, he's so annoying looking. He's all like, oh, I can't handle anything, I'm so stressed and sad, and his like doped out wife his doped out wife's like, all you have to do is take Atarax, and then she like teaches him how to relax, but just by giving him medicine. So if you guys want to laugh, watch The Relaxed Wife. It's wild.
Maybe we'll put that in the show notes. We'll link to it.
It's truly
Is it just like it's something on YouTube?
Yeah, you can find it on
link to
YouTube.
it in the
and
notes.
the guy is so, oh my gosh, I couldn't look at him. It's supposed to be comedic, but it's kind of creepy. So yeah, that's a lot of housewives were on drugs for good reason, and we still are.
Yeah, it's heavy. It's heavy.
It is heavy, and it bummed me out. I mean, obviously it bummed me out because it's like, still things like this happen all the time, and we have a huge drug epidemic because of these like companies back in the day that were like, this will work for everything, and it turns out it was just straight meth, and the whole generations of, anyway, it's dark, and I'm glad I'm a woman right now.
And childcare, that's the other thing where you're like, it never changes.
It never changes.
They want to take away tax credit even for like,
do they really,
having a child? Yeah, I mean, I think they tried to, or they did. I don't remember what the last. Anyway, it's not great.
No, yeah, sorry to bum you out.
No, you're not responsible for how this all happened. It's
really
other forces. Yeah, I mean, unless you passed all this legislation and made it happen, in which case I am upset with you. You please don't do that. But
I'm a congressman from the 50s. I don't know if you knew that.
Have you tried cocaining it? That might work.
Just rub some cocaine on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, thank you for your tab.
Yeah.
I enjoyed listening to it. I also enjoyed seeing you have a laughing fit. That was very fun.
I cried out of laughter.